I can't believe this is real. The curtain call. It doesn't feel like it should have been controversial with the benefit of hindsight. It's a house show. I think everybody listening to this knows it was the farewell show, if you will, for the Diesel character and the Razor Ramon character in the WWF. It went down in Madison Square Garden on May 19th, 1996. As a reminder, Razor Ramon's a good guy. Diesel's a bad guy. Triple H or Hunter Hearst Helmsley is a bad guy. Shawn Michaels is a good guy. So now you've got good guys and bad guys raising each other's hands, hugging, celebrating, saying farewell. And Kevin Nash actually went on his podcast. Click this. Check that out. Said, we had talked to Vince about doing this, not to the extent it ended up being, but we always took things a little further than Vince expected us to. We talked about it, doing it as a tribute to our buddies that were leaving. While on the one hand, these are the guys going to the other place to do battle with us. On the other hand, those guys are our family. We came back through the curtain, and Vince said it was great, but it wasn't for everybody. So Vince had to do something about it, and the next day we were told we killed the business. Now, that's certainly the narrative that's out there, that this was approved and everything was fine, but when other people were upset, Vince had to respond. What do you remember about the curtain call, and how do you remember the locker room feeling about the curtain call?
Yeah, I wasn't there. I've heard in a podcast that I was there and upset about it, but I wasn't there and I wasn't upset about it. So neither are true. And I think the person that said the podcast had misremembered, because there's no reason for him to put me there for any nefarious reason. It just a person, I was at nearly all the shows, but I was booked on a different show at the time. I believe a different show, or else I just wasn't booked that night. I talked to Jerry Brisco a lot about it. Brisco was furious. And he went to Kevin Nash right after it. And Nash is the first one that told Jerry Brisco, hey, the old man approved it. And so Jerry went to Vince and said, what in the hell have you done? And because Jerry was very upset about it. And Vince said, well, I did okay. It wasn't quite what I okayed. He got a little bit more than what I thought. And that night they always went to Smith and Walensky's. That was Vince's favorite steakhouse.
Yep.
And Brisco refused to get in the car with Vince. Vince goes, "You gonna get in the car?" And Jerry cut a hell of a promo on him, and wouldn't get in the car with him. And went back to his hotel and flew home. Jerry was pretty upset about it because Vince had approved it. Not at Kevin, because Vince had said it was okay. Jerry was mad at Vince, and so the boys, there was mixed feelings. My thought always was, see what happens. If we go to the Garden the next time and it's in half, then yeah, these guys did the wrong thing and gonna be mad at them. If it doesn't have any effect, then nothing wrong with them. Not my cup of tea. I wouldn't have done it. But businesses, you've always had guys doing stuff in the business that sometimes you don't know if it's good or not. And it was so different from what we did back then. I took the wait and see attitude that, you know what, maybe this isn't bad. I don't know. I didn't like it. But I never spoke up against it, and I wouldn't to this day, because I didn't know at the time, and it did not hurt business. So apparently what they thought was correct. Talking about the click, what they thought was correct.
I am curious, does it matter that it's a house show? I mean, I know it's Madison Square Garden, and this is supposed to be sacred ground and blah, blah, blah for WWE. I get that. But at the end of the day, it's not like it was broadcast. So it's not like they embarrassed the company globally. I don't know. It feels like with the benefit of hindsight, it shouldn't have been that big a deal.
We did stuff in house shows all the time. And
yes.
we broke kayfabe. We did all kinds of crazy stuff in house because we were just having fun. And so you look at some of the stuff we did in house shows, you go, my God, man, you guys are killing the business. We'd never do that on TV. And these guys didn't do it on TV. So, yeah, does it make a difference if it was a house show? 100%. I mean, I think these guys knew what they were doing, and it was a big deal to them. They knew it was not TV. And to this day, I don't see much wrong with it. Is it my cup of tea? No. I'm a huge kayfabe guy, and I wouldn't do something like that just because of my belief in kayfabe. But I don't have a problem with them doing it. And business didn't go down. If business had gone down, I would have said at the time, you guys made a mistake. Now, I still don't know if I've been mad at them. They just would have made a mistake. They weren't trying to kill the business. They were doing something with their friends. It was something that, if you're out there trying to kill the business as you're leaving the territory, but you had two guys staying in the territory. They weren't trying to kill it. They were just trying to have a good time with their friends, and business did not go down.
Hey, I do want to ask a little bit about house shows and the difference between house shows and television, because I do feel like, I have to be honest, I had more fun at house shows than I did at TV tapings. And I know that there's a large portion of our audience who didn't enjoy going to house shows. They wanted to go to the live television event because they wanted to see something happen, something to advance the storyline, something of consequence. But as far as just in a vacuum, what show did I enjoy more? I always enjoyed the house show more because they're playing to you, the crowd, more rather than playing to the hard camera. And one of the things I've noticed, and I feel like this is by design, is that the house show approach was a little more loose and a little more comedic and a little more fun. Like I've seen house shows where, in the middle of a match, there would be a dance off and a referee may get involved or things like that. And we've heard Edge and Christian doing the red nose bit, or someone trying to gag the Undertaker with cucumbers, or Owen Hart selling popcorn, or the Worm, I believe, was created on a house show. And I know
with me and Ron.
Yeah. So there's lots of fun stuff that just is born out of a house show. Was that a WWE edict? Like, does that come top down? Hey, we want the house show to be more fun, more family friendly, more comedic.
That's a great question, because it wasn't an official edict, but it was an edict. They wanted you to have fun at house shows. They wanted you to try stuff. That was the whole idea. They didn't want you going out there and having the same match from night after night after night. For one, Lanza will get bored and probably quit watching you and quit giving you any type of decent reports back to Vince. But two, they wanted you to try different stuff. I watched a match one time with Stone Cold and Kurt Angle. You got to ask Kurt about this sometime. I don't even remember where it was. And they did like 30 false finishes. So Steve's calling the match. Obviously, he's the heel. He's the older guy. And he has Kurt hit him with his finish. And you could tell Kurt doesn't know what he's doing. 1-2, Steve kicks out. Steve stuns him. 1-2, Steve pulled up his shoulder. Then they start going through just a series of finishes. It was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. The boys in the back are rolling. I mean, we're beside ourselves. We're laughing so hard. It was one of the most fun, entertaining matches I've ever seen. And the crowd got it. The crowd was out there just watching this. They had no idea what they're going to do next. I don't think Steve had any idea what he's going to do next. Kurt had no idea what was going on. It was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. You couldn't do that on TV, but doing it in a house show, it's just fun. And so, yeah, there was this thing. And when they came back, Lanza was just beside himself how great it was. It's just fun. And so, yeah, the edict was there, but I don't think it was an official edict of have fun in the house shows.
Alex is with us here live, and he says, if the guy in the crowd wasn't filming the curtain call, would it have been as big of an issue? I mean, I don't think at the time anybody even knew it was filmed.
Yeah.
But is that the first time you remember seeing WWE embrace fan cam footage? Because as a reminder, that was a big no-no. You were not supposed to be recording these events, and guys would sneak cameras in and record house shows. And I used to be a tape trader, and I remember snagging some of those. You could see matches that you were never supposed to see because fans were literally sneaking camcorders in. Now that feels like time from a bygone era, but it was actually born out of people shooting movies in a theater, and they became bootleg movies that you could buy on the street. So you wouldn't have to go to the movie theater. You could actually watch it at home. Yes, that really was an industry before you could just get, leaked stuff off a message board or something, or a news group or something like that. But do you remember WWE ever embracing sort of bootleg fan cam footage ever before? I think this might be the only one.
I think this is the only one because, man, they shut down cameras like crazy. I remember the first time we were in Nashville in the airport bar and just doing nothing out of the ordinary. A fan took a picture with a cell phone. I mean, just took a picture with a cell phone, just walked by and took a picture. And it was so unusual back then that Undertaker called the manager over and said, hey, man, that guy just took a picture of us. And the manager went over there and just bollocked the guy. The guy came over and apologized and deleted it. And, nowadays you do that. It's on your TikTok video right away. It was a different world back then. People tried to sneak in stuff all the time and take pictures. And, when Napolitano and Apter were banned, they would sneak in and try to figure out a way to take pictures for magazines. So it was a whole industry. I don't know why they decided to embrace it here. There were a lot of guys mad, but now a lot of the guys that were mad, were, the Canadian group, and they had a personal problem with Sean. So it wasn't, I don't know if they were that mad at, hey, they're killing the business. They may have been. I don't know, can't read their minds, and I wouldn't dare dream to. But it was also just a personal animosity towards Sean. They wanted to take any way in the world they could to take a shot at him, because there was this general dislike between them. But I didn't remember a ton of guys just being furious about it. I do remember, some guys in that group that had the problems with Sean, the personality problems, being mad about it.
I do want to ask you, at least from your perspective as one of the guys in the locker room, how was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash leaving for WCW received? I say that because I want to remind everybody, and I know that now we like to think of, they went because WCW was on fire. They really weren't. Obviously, the NWO doesn't exist. They're not there yet. Monday Nitro just started the prior Labor Day, so call it early September. So here we are less than a year later, and these guys are jumping ship. And for years and years and years, respectfully, most everyone who was in WCW's dream was to get to the WWF. These guys had both been there before as the Diamond Stud and Vinny Vegas and Oz and a handful of other things. Well, now they've enjoyed great success with Vince as Intercontinental Champion, as World Champion. They've main evented a lot of pay-per-views and done really well in the wrestling business, probably exceeded their own expectations. Is it just the lure of the guaranteed contract? Were they frustrated with their payoffs in the locker room? I'm just wondering, did the boys think, hey, you're making a mistake?
No, I don't think they did. Vince had a finite amount of money, and he paid Brett a fortune because, I'm not sure Vince knew what to do. He knew he needed to lock in his top stars, and Brett was our top star. And so he locked in Brett, but there wasn't a ton of extra money. And so, listen to the stories that Kevin and Scott have told. They've went to Vince and realized there was a ceiling there of where they're going to be monetarily and how far they're going to go. And, as far as their push and everything, obviously Kevin was a really long reigning champion, but, where do you go from there? You're going to be champion again, but the money was a limit. And so I think we knew they went there because deep pockets of Ted Turner. And we certainly had no problem with that. They fulfilled their obligation. It was really cool what they did. And I got a lot of respect for Kevin and Scott when they went to Europe, because Europe was the only place we're making money, decent money, most of the boys. And they were booked in Europe. If they hadn't gone, they'd have really burned nearly, because we were working nearly every major city in Germany. They'd have burned the entire country if they hadn't gone. And they went because it was the right thing to do. So I got a lot of respect for how they finished up, and they finished up the right way. They didn't just say, hey, we're leaving. We're not putting anybody over and we're leaving. Vince took pretty good care of them as far as finishes and things, but they left the right way.
What do you remember of that international tour? The one I'm asking about is the one right after WrestleMania 12. So this would have been before the curtain call. Of course, the curtain call is it. They're out after that. Mm-hmm. But that international tour, which showed them, all over Europe, allegedly the guys were not following any of the WWE policies or rules and really pissing off the agents because they understood, hey, we're leaving. We've put in our notice. What are they going to do? Punish us? They're going to do whatever they're going to do either way. And allegedly these guys maybe had a little too much fun on that tour. Do you remember them giving heartburn to the agents in that regard?
No, I don't, and I was there. I was on the bus every day. I sat by Gerald Brisco, and he was the agent. I think what that came from was the thing that happened with with Sonny. Sonny got mad because Scott and Kevin were late for the bus one morning, and she came in and told George Steele right in front of everybody, hey, I missed my tanning. I missed my workout, all because Scott and Kevin went to the bar and had drinks last night. And we're sitting there. The thing about it was, when we're on a 20-something day international tour, we don't care if you're late for the bus. We can wait on the bus, or we can go and wait in the hotel room where we're going to end up in 4 hours. It didn't really matter to us if guys were late. So what? We're waiting somewhere anyway. And if they're late one day, you could possibly be late the next. And you don't want, things happen. Shit happens. It's not a big deal. To me, nothing was a big deal. I don't think they were. I completely disagree with that narrative. 100% disagree with it. I was there that whole tour, and I sat by Gerald Brisco and played cards most of the time. He was my buddy that I hung out with, and he was the lead agent. There was no issue with Scott and Kevin. None.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask about, because you mentioned Sunny, this isn't the trip where she had some shitty food, is it?
I think it was, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was, yeah, because I was the only international tour I was on with. I guess Scott and Kev were there, right? When that happened, yeah. And it came out because she stooged them, and then all of a sudden something happened. And you got to understand the creativity of this. So you got to admire this a little bit. And people are gonna think I'm a horrible person for saying this, but we used to get the food, and you'd put on the top of the label what you wanted. So you'd want steak and potatoes, you'd want chips or something, and then you'd put it in on a top, and then they would pack it and then put the label on top of it. Your name would be on it with all the stuff that you requested on it, and it would be sealed by that top that had the description of what food you wanted. So apparently Sonny wanted pasta. So apparently underneath their pasta, there was a gift. And so that's where, Sonny apparently got back into her room and was cutting into it. And all of a sudden, like, this food tastes like shit.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.